Hello lovely language learners, it's MORKSENSEI. Welcome to part 3 in my series about strategies to prepare, study, and practice for the TOEIC listening and reading test. This is the third part of the 45-minute long listening section, and it's about conversations. Let's dive in. In the conversations part of the test, there are 39 questions about short conversations between a couple of people that are spoken only one time, and there is no printed script. You must listen to each conversation and read and listen to each of the 3 questions for each conversation printed in the test book. You must choose the best response for the question and mark your answer on the answer sheet. Just like in the previous sections, I'm going to give you 4 main tips, and I'll also throw in some bonus tactics. Number 1, skim the answer choices to help you predict what you're going to hear. Number 2, become familiar with same word distractors. Number 3, use vocabulary cues to infer meaning. And number 4, become familiar with polite ways of saying no. So let's get started with tip 1. Skim the answer choices to help you prepare for what you're going to hear in the conversation. The question and answer choices in this part of the TOEIC test can help you to predict what you're going to hear, so use the time available to you to skim through them before you listen. This will help you identify the key parts of the conversation and give you a rough idea of what's coming. As you identify distractors, cross out those answer choices. When you do hear the correct answer choice, mark it quickly on your answer sheet and use your time to preview the next question. Bonus tactic 1, already. Each of the 3 questions that you will have to answer for one conversation is likely to have specific content. Common questions for the first question include asking the topic or purpose of the conversation, and the answers to these questions are usually heard at the beginning of the conversations. Examples are, why is the man calling the woman? What are the speakers mainly talking about? Who most likely is this woman? Where most likely are the speakers? Where is the conversation taking place? Common questions for the second question include asking for details. You'll have to listen for key words to help you answer this question correctly. Examples include, what is the problem? What does the woman mean when she says, I'm afraid not? What does the man tell her? What does the woman suggest? How does the man feel about the new training program? What does the woman ask the man about? The answer to the final question can usually be heard near the end of the conversation. Often conversations end with speaker A suggesting or requesting speaker B to do something or telling him or her what to do next. In these cases, the last question asks information related to this. What does the woman ask the man to do is an example. However, sometimes there are questions such as, what most likely will the speakers do next? Which requires you to do some deductive reasoning, meaning you have to guess the most logical choice based on what you've heard. Now let's move on to tip number 2, which is to be familiar with same word distractors. Conversations in part 3 can often use words that are the same or have similar meanings as words in the answer choices. This may cause you to choose an incorrect answer. Be careful not to choose an answer simply because you've heard something similar in the recording. In fact, if you hear the exact same word or phrase that is written as an answer choice, it may be a distractor, so be careful. Remember that the correct answer choice often uses different words to say the same thing in the recorded conversation. Bonus tactic 2. Listen to who says what. The short conversations in part 3 include female and male voices. Another way the test can distract you is to give you an answer choice that is associated with the wrong person. For example, a question might be, what does the woman want to do? And one of the answer choices might be, buy a red jacket. However, it was the man in the conversation who wanted to buy the red jacket, not the woman. Keeping track of who said what will help you avoid distractors. Tip 3 is to use vocabulary cues to infer meaning. The answers to many questions in Part 3 of the TOEIC test are not stated directly. To do well, you must listen carefully and use your knowledge of related vocabulary and context to choose the correct answer choices. Just like all listening sections, you must listen for meaning, not particular words. For this reason, when you first look at the answer choices, try to think of other words or phrases that can be used in addition to or instead of them. For example, look at this question and set of possible answers for a conversation you might hear. What are the speakers discussing? Judging by the question, we can see that we are going to be asked about the key topic or main idea in the conversation. And as we read through each answer, we can prepare to hear possible ideas and words to do with the weather, such as sunny, cloudy, rainy, cold. A meeting, such as start time, number of people, location, participants. Repair fees, such as price, renovation, upgrade, cost, time frame, workers, or an office visit, such as transportation details, time, place, purpose, visit, etc. Just keep your brain moving with associated vocabulary. Note that some questions might clearly ask you to infer things about the situation. Common inference markers include what can be said, what can be implied, what can be inferred, and listen for related information in the recording. We've talked about taking time to read before the listening starts, becoming familiar with same word distractors, and using vocabulary cues to infer meaning. Now let's move on to the final tip, which is to become familiar with polite ways of saying no. Part 3 of the TOEIC test wants to check your familiarity with the language and organization common to negative responses. Most conversations in Part 3 start with a question or a request from one of the speakers. A common response to that question or request is to deny or refuse. Some common ways of refusing or denying include, we used to, but I'm sure they wouldn't allow it. She could, but I'm afraid we can only, I'd love to, but I don't think I'll be able to. And there's many more, of course. You can identify these denials or refusals if you listen carefully to the information that follows them. The reason for refusing or denying is usually given by the speaker right after phrases like this. The information is often the focus of one of the questions. Indeed, it's often the first question. Okay, let's listen to an example conversation with 3 questions followed by 4 answer choices. Try to use the tips you've been introduced to in this video. There might also be some distractors we've covered in previous videos. I won't read out the questions, but I will give you some time to answer all 3. Here we go.
Do you want to share a taxi to the airport? We can reduce our expenses that way, and we both know that the company is trying to cut costs.
Actually, I'm not flying. I'm going all the way to the conference by bus. I have to leave early tomorrow because it's going to take all day to get there.
Oh, right. I forgot that you're afraid of flying. Are you taking a vacation day tomorrow then?
Well, I worked some overtime last week, so I just banked it instead of wasting a holiday. Check-in for the conference isn't until the evening anyway.
Did you choose your answers? If you're ready, let's listen again while you read, and then we'll go over the answers and distractors.
Do you want to share a taxi to the airport? We can reduce our expenses that way, and we both know that the company is trying to cut costs.
Actually, I'm not flying. I'm going all the way to the conference by bus. I have to leave early tomorrow because it's going to take all day to get there.
Oh, right. I forgot that you're afraid of flying. Are you taking a vacation day tomorrow then?
Well, I worked some overtime last week, so I just banked it instead of wasting a holiday. Check-in for the conference isn't until the evening anyway.
The correct answer for question 1 is D. Choice A is mentioned, but the man is asking if she needs to take a vacation day. Remember, in part 3 there is often one or two choices that are mentioned but are not correct. Choice B is related to saving money for the company, but this is not the main topic of the conversation. This small detail in the conversation serves as a distractor. Choice C repeats the word company, but no policy is mentioned. In part 3, there's often one choice that includes a word from the conversation. You may have heard the word, but it's not the correct choice. The correct answer for question 2 is B. Choice A is how the man is getting to the conference. In part 3, there's often one or two choices that are mentioned but are not correct. Remember to listen to who says what. You'll also notice that the woman replies with, "Actually, I'm not flying," which is an indirect way of responding no to the question of whether or not she wants to take a taxi. Choice C is not mentioned anywhere in the conversation. In part 3, there may be one choice that is not mentioned at all. Choice D is how the man is getting to the airport. The word taxi is mentioned, but it's not correct. The correct answer for question 3 is B. Choice A repeats the word overtime, but it was the woman who did overtime last week. Choice C confuses the idea of leaving earlier and arriving earlier, so it's a distractor. Choice D uses the homonym bank, but in this conversation, the term bank means to store up for later use, not a financial institution. This is a homonym that is used as a distractor. That is it for today, my lovelies. Today we went over some tips for part 3 of the TOEIC listening and speaking test. Remember to skim the answer choices to help you predict what you're going to hear, become familiar with same word distractors, use vocabulary cues to infer meaning, and become familiar with polite ways of saying no. And don't forget the 2 bonus tactics I shared. Forgotten already? Use the timestamps in the description below to watch again. Best of luck to you in your TOEIC practice sessions. Remember, the more you practice, the less luck you'll need during the actual test. Please click the thumbs up icon if you like this video, and I hope to see you in the next video of this series, which is part 4, Short Talks. Bye-bye. Mwah.